The distributive property. Take notes and solve the problems on pages 35 and 36 in your journal. We have 3 times x plus 2. So we have 3 groups of x plus 2. So if we go and add up everything we have x, x, and x. That gives us 3 x's. We have a 2, 2, and 2. So we add that up and we have a total of 6. This is the same as multiplying 3 times x and 3 times 2. 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 2 is 6. And that gives us 3x plus 6. That is our distributive property. We are going to be adding this step on to our 2-step equations. So really we kind of have 3 steps now, but I'm just going to refer to it kind of 2 steps because of how we're going to break it out. Our first problem, we have 8s plus 3 equals 72. So that means we have 8 groups of s plus 3. How many s's do we have? We have 8. How many 3's? We have 8. How much does 8 3's equal? That equals 24. Starting with our first problem, we have -7 times z minus 6 equals -70. So our first thing is we're going to take our -7 and we're going to multiply it times everything that's inside our parentheses. So -7 times z, and that gives us -7z. Then we're going to multiply -7 times the -6 or -6 in the parentheses. We can't forget the sign. So a negative times a negative is a positive. 7 times 6 is 42, and that equals our -70. Finishing our 2-step equations, remember we're trying to isolate the variable, so we're trying to isolate that letter z, so that means we're going to subtract 42 on both sides. That leaves us with a -7z and that equals a -112. Showing you we have -70 minus 42. So I want to remind you guys about your integers because I know some of you guys are having problems solving your integers. So we have -70 plus a -42 because we did our keep change change, and that gives us a -112. So we're going to, our second step of the problem or of our 2-step equation is we're going to divide by a -7. Don't forget the negative sign. I'm seeing kids forget that. So that leaves us with z on our left side. That equals a negative divided by a negative is a positive. 112 divided by 7 gives us 16. Our second one, it's just the same as our first one, except for our multiplication piece is on the other end. So we're going to take our -2 and multiply it times t and then -2 times a positive 8. So -2 times t gives us a -2t. Then we're going to take -2 times positive 8, and that gives us a -16. That equals 12. Now, solving our 2-step equation like we've been working on, our first step is to isolate the variable. So our first step is going to be that we're going to have to move the -16. So we're going to add 16 to both sides of the equation. That leaves us with -2z equals a positive 28. Next step is we have -2 times t. That means that we're going to do the opposite, which is divide, because that's multiplication. We're going to divide both sides by -2. That leaves us with t equals a negative and a positive is a negative, so negative 14. Our next one, we have 2 times p plus 7 equals 18. So we're taking 2 times p, which gives us 2p, and 2 times a positive 7, or plus 7, which gives us plus 14, equals 18. We are going to create our t-chart. We're going to isolate the variable, which is our p, means get it by itself, and we're looking to move the thing that is connected to the 2p, which is plus 14. So we're going to do the opposite, which is subtract 14 on both sides. So now I have 2p equals 18 minus 14 is 4. Divide both sides by 2 because it's 2 times p. And that gives us that p equals 2. Next problem. We have a negative times 10x plus 5 equals 45. So we are going to take our negative and multiply it across each side. Negative is just the same thing as negative 1. So changing and rewriting. So I'm going to take my negative 1 or my negative times 10x, negative 1 times a positive 5. So negative 1 times 10 gives me negative 10x. It's just changing the signs. So a negative 1 times a positive 5 would give me a negative 5 equals 45. So locate our variable on our equation. And we're going to add 5 to both sides because it's minus 5. That leaves us with negative 10x equals 50. Next step is to divide both sides by negative 10 because it's negative 10 times x. Be careful of your integers here because I'm seeing a lot of kids mess up on their integers, get their signs wrong. So that leaves me with x equals a positive divided by a negative is a negative, and a 50 divided by 10 is 5. This one's a little bit harder, but it's still the same steps, but it just has you to do a little bit more. We have 2/3 times 6x minus 9 equals negative 34. So I'm going to do the work on some of the sides. So I'm going to take my 2/3 and I'm going to multiply it times the 6x. So rewriting it, I have 2/3 times 6. So I'm going to place my 6 over 1. 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3. And then I'm going to divide. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I'm going to have 4x. So 2/3 times 6x is 4x. Doing the next one. Take 2/3 times a negative 9. Don't forget the sign that's in front of there with the distributive property. 2/3 times negative 9 equals. So I'll put that over 1. I'm going to go ahead and do my sign so I don't forget them. A negative times a positive is a negative. 2 times 9 is 18. 3 times 1 is 3. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. So I'm going to do that first so I don't forget my sign. And then I have 18 divided by 3, which is 6. So 2/3 of negative 9 is negative 6, or in this case, minus 6, which equals negative 34. Solving my two-step equation. First thing is to remember to isolate the variable, so we're going to look on that side and see what's connected to the side of it, which is minus 6. So we're going to add 6 to both sides. I have 4x equals a negative 34 plus 6. So I'm going to rewrite it over here, because if you can't see it right there, you might want to rewrite it because you're used to seeing it this way. So I have negative 34 plus 6. Remember your song, same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. Keep the sign the larger number, then you'll be exact. So I have different signs, it means I subtract 34 minus 6, and that gives us 28. And keep the sign of the larger number, which it's negative, so negative 28. Now I have 4 times x equals negative 28. Do the opposite is divide, and negative 28 divided by 4, so a negative divided by a positive is a negative. 28 divided by 4 is 7. All right, we're to the try me's. Try these 3 problems on your paper and then bring them up to me and I will check and see if you're correct.